Hey there, people. Welcome to the Fit for 90 podcast. I am your host, Cayman Bandel, footballer and strength and conditioning coach. It is the first week back in January. We have had hopefully you've had a good Christmas period, a good December, and we're into a new year where everything becomes a bit overwhelming sometimes, to be honest with you. I find it quite overwhelming when you go into that first week of January. It's like, actually, you need to get back into routines here, but you look around everywhere and like, there's cheese boards, there's celebrations, there's quality streets. It's like, okay, I need to get back into routines with my training, with my food, but how do I get rid of all this? A lot of people just smash through it. I decided to just put it in a cupboard that I can't see. I ask my missus to hide it as well sometimes, just to help me get back into good routines. But today I wanted to break down how we can help a lot of you players make this the best year yet. I want you to ultimately become the fittest players on the pitch. And I'm sure a lot of you guys listening to this, guys and girls listening to this right now, I'm sure you want that for yourself too. Today is going to be around that, exactly that. How do we become the fittest players on the pitch? Now, let me ask you something. Do you ever feel good, like in the first half of a game, say the first 45 minutes, even the first half an hour? You get to half time, feeling pretty good. You go out for the second half, gets to about 15 minutes into the game. So you're around the 65th minute now. Suddenly your legs just go. They just go to absolute lead. You're still reading the game well. You still want the ball, but your body is not responding the same way it was the first half. It's quite a common thing. I've experienced it myself many, many times when I wasn't training the right way for football. What makes this frustrating, what can be the most frustrating thing is, and this is what I found, was when you're doing the training throughout the week, when you're putting the work in, when you've done those extra runs, when you've been doing the 5Ks, 10Ks, when you've been pushing hard in the gym, you've been trying to eat better, you know that you need to be fitter, so you've done that work, but you're still fading in the 65th minute of a game. And you're looking around you, and there's some players that don't even look after themselves that well. There's some that don't look like athletes, but they all look comfortable. They all look comfortable within the last half an hour of a game. And you're like, what is it? Like, why are they still comfortable and I'm still struggling here? Now, I don't think it's because you're lazy. I wasn't lazy. I had a great work ethic and I still do. It's not because you're lazy. And I don't think it's because you don't want it enough either. I think it's, and I know from personal experience and having worked with hundreds and hundreds of players, probably thousands by this point now, it's because your training's not set up properly. The way that you structure your week isn't set up properly. So today I want to explain what being fit for football actually means and why just running more is not the fix for it. It very rarely ever works, just doing more running. There's a massive like performance puzzle that I call it when I speak to my players, and it's about putting the different pieces of the puzzle together at the right time and looking at, especially when we start working with players, looking at what piece of the puzzle do you already have in place? And then what pieces do I need to bring to the table so that we have this complete performance puzzle? So I want to start with what being fit for football actually means. A lot of footballers get this wrong. I think a lot of players think that fitness is about how much running they do, how many miles they cover, how hard they suffer when they're doing these miles, doing this running. Football fitness is not about jogging for long periods of time. It's more about how often you can perform repeated high-intensity efforts and still recover between those high-intensity efforts. Just think of a game like you sprint, you stop, you decelerate, you change direction, you then maybe have to sprint again, you might be asked to make a box-to-box run, you then have to recover, and then you have to go again. And you do that consistently for an hour and a half. If you're playing full 90s, yes, there's a little 15-minute break in the middle with half-time, but ultimately you're doing it for an hour and a half. That is the game. So the fittest player on the pitch aren't often the ones who ran the most on Tuesday night at training or did the most on the 10K on a Wednesday or a Thursday. It's the player who can still press, they can still accelerate, they can still make the right decisions because they're not thinking about how tired they are in the 80th minute, in the 85th minute, in the 90th minute. They're the ones that often affect the game the most. So when we talk about fitness, I'm talking about repeatability. We're talking about recovery. We're not just talking about being able to run. When we talk about fitness, in fact, the the term fitness is such an umbrella term. There's so much that goes underneath being fit for football. Now, a question we get a lot is, I've been training hard, like, why am I not the fittest on the pitch right now? Like, why am I not getting through 90 minutes? And I see a lot of players get stuck here. I think I want to be clear. It's not because players are lazy. It's not because they don't care. It's because their approach to training, I think that's all over the place. And I see it a lot before players join us. Their approach is all over the place in the way that they're doing things. And often what I see is we'll see random conditioning sessions. So they'll just like pull a workout off of TikTok and crack on with that. They'll pull a workout off of Instagram, crack on with that. And they'll download a little something here or there, like a PDF, or they'll even jump on like ChatGPT and get a workout off of there, you know. It's random conditioning. It's completely random. They're also training hard on very tired legs, and they think that that's going to benefit them and especially when they're doing like high intensity work and speed work, when their legs are already tired. You're shooting yourself in the foot if that's something that you're doing. There's no structure around match day. We see that as well. So looking at game day as the most important session of the week, and also if you're playing 90 minutes, it's going to be the highest intensity session of the week. That's the one that you want to be prepared for. But if you've got no structure around that, which we see often, then you're never going to give yourself a chance to perform at your best. Around the training across the week, not just around match day, but across the week, we see poor recovery habit. We're talking about sleep, we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about all those extras we speak about in terms of foam rolling, mobility work, strength training as well. They try and outwork tired legs. I see that sometimes. So an example being, if you're feeling a little bit kind of, you're woken up in the morning, you're feeling a little bit flat, you might have a conditioning session or a gym session planned. Instead of actually saying, you know what, like, I need to listen to my body here, and maybe a lower intensity recovery session might be a better option, or just a lower intensity session in general. Instead, they think, no, I'm going to smash a black coffee, I'm going to get my carbs in, I'm going to go and crack on with a session. And to be fair, you might get through that session having fueled up for it. The aftermath of that is it takes 2, 3, 4 days to recover. And that's where players shoot themselves in the foot sometimes. And also, on top of that, we just see players copying workouts, like with absolute zero context. Come back to my first point about those random conditioning sessions, pulling workouts off of TikTok and thinking, oh yeah, that guy looks good, so I'm gonna copy what he's doing. Or that pro did this, so I'm gonna copy what he's doing. You're doing programs that are set for someone else's goals. And the TikTok ones in particular, like, I don't really put out too much content about like, here, like, do this workout, because everyone is so different. I'll put the odd one here and there, like maybe you follow this structure and you can build your own workout, but I don't really like doing too much of the do this workout if you want to get faster, or do this workout if you're going to get fitter, which you see with so many influencers nowadays. And I'm not an influencer, I'm a coach. And the reason why I don't do that is because I personally think every individual is so different. The goals that they have and what they need can't just be solved with a 60-second reel. There's a much deeper understanding, there's a much deeper context that you need to be able to truly help an individual get a really good result. A lot of the time, we just see players just piling fatigue on top of fatigue on top of fatigue. So if your week isn't built around the demands of football, if you're guessing, you're never going to be able to improve. You're never going to be able to last that full 90, and no way you're going to become one of the fittest players on the pitch. Now, before I go any further, some of you might be listening to this thinking, Cayman, why? Like, what puts you in such a good position to be able to speak about this? I went from being 100 kg at the age of 18, funnily enough, kg I was at the age of 18. I managed to get myself down to 80 kilograms. I also hit a Premier League standard on the yo-yo test. So I know what it takes to get fit. I know what it takes to be one of the fittest players on the pitch. It's not easy. It's hard. It requires a change in identity. It requires a change in habits, a change in lifestyle. It requires a change in the way you think. But if I can do it, without a doubt, you can do it. Without a doubt. I was the laziest guy in the world. I was a pretty fat kid. Sometimes I look back and I can't actually believe that that's how I was, but I was. If I can do it, you can 100% do it. So I'm in a good position to speak about it because I've been through it. I've bought the t-shirt and I understand where you're at right now, where you might be at. I also understand what it takes, not just having been through it myself, but also from a training standpoint, from like understanding the principles of training and fitness and strength and conditioning. I understand what it takes to be able to go from being unfit to being fit safely. That's why I'm sharing a lot of this knowledge, because I feel like I can help so many players. So I want you to understand the principles, right? I want to help you to understand what actually improves your fitness late in the game. I'm not going to give you the workouts here. As I said, I don't do like generic workouts for anyone. It's very, very specific to the individual. But I want you to understand the principles, because once you get this, things will click. The first thing to recognize is you have to stop training randomly around your matches. Your week needs a real intent. Your month, your training phase needs an intent. It needs a focus behind it. What are we trying to train right now? Are we training speed? Are we training strength? What's our overarching goal? Are we training power? Are you trying to get leaner? Are you trying to lose a little bit of body fat? Because then we have to look at what the training goal is, because you're going to be in a bit of a deficit in terms of calories. So we need to be smart with our training. We can't be in a deficit and then be hammering you with intensity, because the two don't quite match up. Some days are going to be about applying a stimulus. Some days are going to be about being fresh. If every session feels hard, your body's never going to adapt. Okay. Late game fitness, it actually comes from recovering better, not punishing yourself with more running. If you're always feeling heavy, if you're not recovering properly, if you're training when you're tired, you're not letting those adaptations happen. You're implementing a stimulus on the body, and then you're not allowing yourself to recover from that stimulus. The way that I look at recovery nowadays, I messaged one of my clients this morning actually about this. I look at recovery as growth days. And I never used to do this. Recovery, rest days, I used to think, no, like that's for the week. I was that guy. I was like, I get up at 4 a.m, crack on. I learned the hard way. I burnt out. Like I learned really, really, it was a tough lesson. Recovery should be a non-negotiable for any athlete, anyone who's training towards a goal. Rest and recovery is important. Probably the most important thing, more than training. I reframed my recovery days as growth days. And that allowed me to switch the mindset on it, knowing that when I'm in the gym, I'm breaking the body down. When I'm going to the pitch and I'm doing my extras, I'm breaking the body down. When I come away from that, everything I do away from the training environment is when I'm getting stronger. And it really changed my identity and the way I live my life. I stopped drinking as much as I did, and I went alcohol-free for a very long time. I still, even now, like I'll probably drink maybe twice a year, 3 times a year. I took my sleep seriously. I started eating the right foods, started fueling properly. Everything changed when I looked at recovery days and everything I do outside of the gym as growth days. And I think the players who do become the fittest, they really protect their recovery and they protect being fresh, because what that allows them to do is then express their fitness when it matters, which is on match day, especially in that last half an hour of a game. Everyone's fit for 60 minutes, pretty much, unless you're really unfit and you can't get through the first half. But most players are fit for about 60 minutes. But when can you then express that fitness for the last half an hour? Can you express it on match day? A lot of players that we see, they also waste a lot of energy on what I call low value work. So this comes back to the fact that running more is not always better. For example, doing 5Ks, 10Ks excessively, it's not necessarily going to build football fitness. It will build a good aerobic base, which you need as part of football fitness, but it's a very small part of the puzzle. There's more to that than just running long distance at a steady pace. As mentioned earlier, football is a very stop-start sport. So our training needs to replicate that in a way, especially if you're trying to get football fit and be the fittest fittest player on the pitch. A lot of players chase fatigue. So when they feel like their legs are proper burning, suddenly it's like, yeah, I've had a good session, which isn't always the case either. If we look at actual speed repeatability, you need to be able to sprint repeatedly, right? A part of that is sprinting. When we train sprinting, sprints should be done fresh. Every single rep you do in a sprint session, you want to be fresh if you're trying to get faster. Speed repeatability training, or repeated sprintability, as you might have heard me talk about before, that requires a little bit of fatigue. The recovery is shorter because it's almost like it's compromised running, right? You're trying to sprint with tired legs, which is essentially what you do on a football pitch. However, when we talk about sprint training, you don't just chase fatigue. Every single rep needs to be fresh. You need to be trying to get faster for one rep when you're doing a speed session. that means resting a lot between your sprints in a sprint session. A lot of the players that are in the program right now, when they're doing the speed work, they say to me, Cayman, I am standing around a lot of the time for a speed session. I'm like, yeah, brilliant. Like, that's exactly what speed training is. You literally sprint, walk back, sprint, walk back. Do that for 3-4 reps and then have a good couple of minutes of rest. And then we'll go on to the next variation of sprinting, next distance of sprinting. But a lot of players will do more because they feel guilty. And what they neglect is the sleep, the food, and the recovery. It just gets completely ignored, which blows my mind, really. Those things alone, even if you don't train super, super hard, if you're just playing your football through the week, but you really take care of your sleep, you really start fueling properly, you really take care of your recovery, those things alone, I've seen these support players on a football pitch to help them get through 90 minutes. And they've not changed the way that they train. They've taken care of everything outside of it. And what comes back to what I was saying earlier, is the identity shift that you may need to make right now for this year, where you start to look at the way you see yourself. And there's probably a podcast for another day. There's a whole episode I could probably talk about that, to be honest with you. But look at the way that you are viewing yourself at the moment. Do you view yourself as an athlete, or do you view yourself in other ways? And when I started looking at myself as an athlete, even when I wasn't one, I started to act differently. I started to do things differently. I started to think differently. And that's where I started to see more progress. Another really common thing that we see with players, especially when they join the program, like, because they've got that accountability, the consistency, they're consistent with what they're doing. We see that consistency beats intensity every single time. Fitness, building fitness, getting fit for football does not come from one savage week of training. We can all push hard for a week. We can all push hard for a month. But can you push hard for 4 months? Can you push hard for 6 months? Can you not even push hard? Can you be consistent for 4 months? Can you be consistent for 6 months? Getting fit, in a way, comes from boring, repeatable structure over at least 3 to 4 months. And if you miss that 3 to 4 month window, if you keep changing things up too often, or if you're just hopping from program to program, you miss that window, and you're always going to be playing catch up, without a doubt. This is something I see so often. I think being consistent with your efforts is going to be intensity every single time. I think that's a really important takeaway from today's episode. Something else we also see is, and this can be quite frustrating sometimes when I speak to players, is that they think they're doing the right things, but they're actually guessing a lot of their training and nutrition and recovery. They're guessing as opposed to following a system. And that's often the difference between players staying stuck or not. The ones that really kind of progress and move on are the ones that follow a very, very clear structure. The ones that think they're following a structure, but they're actually guessing, they stay stuck. They're the ones that are relying on motivation. They have these stop-start weeks, restarting every couple of weeks. They're constantly changing plans because they don't actually know what to do for their body and for their goals. And then they hope, I hope a couple of weeks' time it'll be different, or next month I'm going to feel a bit better. The players who improve, they follow a structure. They adjust their training rather than restarting. They look at, okay, like, this works well, this didn't work quite well. How can I adjust this to now benefit me more? They also trust the process. They don't chop and change programs every couple of weeks. They run things, like, this is something I've done. I've run programs for 3-4 months and thought, actually, this is working really well. Or on the other side of that, this didn't quite work well for me. This hasn't quite worked how I wanted it to. What went wrong? Review it, adjust, we go again. And then we make the progressions there. And then suddenly you see better progress over the next 3 months. Systems will always beat your willpower. Systems will beat guessing every single time. It's one of the reasons I've built the 90-minute engine accelerator that we've literally just launched for January. Most players listening to this right now, you don't need to be doing more. You don't need to be trying harder. You need clarity. You need structure. You need someone to take the guesswork away, because otherwise you'll get this kind of what I call decision fatigue and a little bit of overwhelm as well, where you have to start thinking around all the other stuff you've got going on with your family, with your football. You might have personal things going on, kids. If you throw all of those things into the equation and then you have to start trying to structure your training properly, it becomes really overwhelming. Knowing what to do is one thing, but applying it properly during the season, around football, around life, that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different kettle of fish. And it's why I built the 90-minute engine accelerator. So if you are fed up or fading late in games, if you're done guessing, if you constantly restarting, if you're just sick of it and you're hoping that things still click this year, this is a system, a proper system that's going to help you to last for the full 90 minutes. You're going to stay sharp late in the games. You will recover properly between sessions so you turn up fresh. You're going to train with a purpose, both in the gym and out of the gym, and you'll build proper match fitness for this season. If you haven't already, check out the 90-Minute Engine Accelerator. I will try and put a link somewhere around this video. It is built for Saturday footballers. It's built for Sunday League footballers who were probably playing Saturdays as well, but ones that are probably playing the higher level on a Sunday. Sunday football now is coming on leaps and bounds, to be fair. If you want to be the fittest player on the pitch without running yourself into the ground, I will try and put the link into the caption, or you can go to my Instagram profile at coach_Cayman, click the link in my bio, and all the details are there. I appreciate you guys listening to this. I hope you take a lot of value from it. I will see you guys next time.